Welcome back to round 5 of the ETS World Championship. I'm here with my co-caster, aReNGee, and we are bringing you a very, very different matchup from last round. We have another TJP versus Xenon Control. This time we are going to be watching VSarius versus LightsOutAce. Both of their lists seem very similar to the people we saw last time, so this is a very, very similar match to last round. So, what do you think we learned from last round? How can we modify our perspective on this matchup?
Well, it seems like Stray into Shadow is pretty good against this TJP deck when it doesn't draw its obelisks and its stand-togethers, which seem to be the key cards in the matchup. And I'll just take a moment here before the viewers flame us for showing us the same matchup back-to-back. We built this broadcast plan in order to make sure that you guys see every single player on screen during day one, so all 16 players, and this was one of the ways to actually make that work out the way that it did, and we made this before we had deck lists, so we didn't know who was going to be what. We were lucky that we got some good matchups, and we might see a run back here the other way with VSarius taking it down, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of other exciting matchups to see throughout the round robin, so don't you worry. One similar matchup to the previous round is not the end of the world. I think we are about to have the players start the game. They are in mulligans right now. It looks like Lights has opted to keep that hand, which seems very solid for him. VSarius, I believe, has also kept. These seem like pretty decent functional hands for both players. Neither of them spectacular, but they're both fine.
With that trademark turn 1 Initiated the Sands for the ET versions of the TJP, which they really like. They like getting off to that fast start, but I think it's only going to curve into a turn 2 Amber Acolyte, which not the most exciting here.
Yeah, it doesn't curve into the most aggressive of curves, but it at least allows him to get the Amber Acolyte out of the way early rather than wasting turn 3 on such a tempo-inefficient card.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, LightsOutAce is looking to just try and play his Temple Scribe, play his Ion, stall a little bit, and then draw out the game with the Waystone Infusers, getting card advantage.
Do you think anybody runs into Ion at this level?
I assure you they do, from personal experience. And I am, of course, talking about myself. No. In all seriousness, in a tournament setting, probably not. You probably never see it. On ladder, you definitely do, just when someone's not paying enough attention, or just makes a little bit of an oops. And I am definitely guilty of that. I run into Ions all of the time. It's half of the reason I played a lot of Xenon, to teach myself to stop.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot more autopilot on ladder than in this serious tournament settings. And VSarius at 4-0, definitely looking to go 5-0. So
yeah, he has had a very strong performance. Lights has had a more average performance. He has gone, checking I'm actually correct this time, yep, 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
It also appears every single one of his rounds has gone to 3, so he's had some hard-fought matches.
Yeah, and so we can Control, you know, not a deck that that has some kind of big turning point in its matches where it's just gonna crush from there. It's sort of a extended, slugfest. So all his matches were always going to be slugfest because that's sort of how the deck works.
Yeah. I liken it a lot, too. It's kind of what Xenon Killers post-board would often feel like, with the just very grindy style. It doesn't use the exact same cards, but I think a lot of the interest in Xenon Control has come from watching that very effective sideboarding strategy in Xenon Killers. I know Lights was working on this before the Xenon Killers craze began, but I think that's a lot of where this deck came from. It also was very good against Xenon Killers, which, while we didn't see any today, was on everyone's radars preparing for this tournament. Yeah,
both the Xenon decks that were here ended up being Control, so a little bit higher curve. But I think the players liked playing the 8/6 drops that you see here, and you can't really do that if you're playing with a more aggressive strategy. You need a bit more of a slower game plan. And please call him Ace instead of Lights, because Lights just sounds kind of silly.
Okay, fair enough. Anyways, Ace has now established a steward, which will just be nice for blocking off any ground attacks from VSarius, as he is trying to just keep on chipping in with the ion. He's no longer going to be able to do that with the owl in the way, and his hand doesn't actually do a ton right now, so he's going to have to look for some more effective cards. He can swing in with the steward, but this... Oh, okay, well, there's a very effective card for him. That's going to help a ton.
Well, it's probably gonna get silenced by the enforcer, but here we see where TJP just it doesn't have a lot of mid game punch without its key cards. We've got some 2/1s in play. A Kothon has ulted, but it's not the most commanding board presence. And Crystallize will do a bit of damage, but it's not going to push that much more through. Now, Ace also doesn't have much of a counter at the moment to what's going on. So it might be enough, but both of these decks are just sort of spinning their wheels with mid-range stuff.
Yeah, neither of them are really hitting on full cylinders here. If I'm Ace, I'm hopefully he's thinking about the Crystallize and is looking just to start swinging back. Because as long as he can hit in with that ion, he's not going to take too much damage over the next couple turns. He also has the Vera's Choice, which he drew, which he can use to slow down the clock tremendously. If he uses it on the Owl, that's going to be a very expensive 4/4 to reestablish. That can't be done on the same turn as a Crystallize.
Kind of wants to play the Waystone Infuser, though, so... to measure those goals. How worried he is about the Crystallize versus, Stand Together versus a top deck Obelisk, etc. There's a lot of stuff that Sarius can draw that is pretty scary to him, and especially with no removal spells.
It's hard from the casting perspective to completely disconnect from the fact that we can see VSarius' hand to know what Ace is thinking about, but the correct play, if he knew the Crystallize, would be to the Vera's Choice, which is what he's opting for. Interestingly, he did it on the Enforcer, not on the Owl, opting to remove blockers to swing more effectively.
Yeah, he's just looking to attack here, and he just ace bases. He's just looking to race. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't mind this line.
Queen Sarius goes for the face.
So Sarius just wants that ion gone. Its life gain is incredibly problematic for him. But now VSarius' board is far less impressive, meaning the Crystallize is far less relevant. Because there is no way he's 2-rounding now. It's just not happening.
That's one way to handle Crystallize.
Yeah, if you can force them to block with even a couple units, the presence of Crystallize becomes far less impressive. So, Ace has had those, which has been unfortunate, because he'd really like to establish one to thin his draws. But I appreciate the line he's taken to try and be more tempo efficient, to try and get rid of VSarius' threats so VSarius can't properly enact his game plan.
And here we see the defensive Crystallize, which is never where you want to be as the Crystallize player.
Yeah. Although that's a very good top deck for
Obelisk is where
VSarius.
You want to be as the player here.
Yeah, so this is actually a problem for Ace. This is a large problem.
Is he just dead to a removal spell, though, Sarius?
He is not, because a single creature can chump the Titan, yeah. Now, he's in a much better spot to a single removal spell. But none of his hand gets the job done. So as long as VSarius doesn't mess up his blocking scheme, this should be a 1 game for him.
Yeah, there's nothing that Ace can do to beat the 2 flyers.
He can warp in another Waystone Infuser, but that just doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, and he's going to get taken down.
I thought he wasn't swinging with the Owl for a second there. That would have been a poor choice.
Yes.
But
okay, so despite the fact that the Crystallize was defensive, it was backed up by an Obelisk draw, which put Ace just too far behind with the Silenced Titan. He did not draw a removal spell that game, except for the Vera's Choice, which not a hard removal spell like some of the other ones.
Yeah,
So,
this definitely goes a lot better if the Xenon draw is less threats and more interaction, as we saw with Rhino's draws. But there we also saw how the matchup can be a lot worse if it's not backed up by the Stray into Shadow. So,
the
let's
Waystone
see if
Infusers weren't so good there.
no, mostly because he drew 3 of them. 1 of them's great. 3 of them is not great. So let's see if we can accurately understand Ace's sideboarding plan this time. So what we thought he was doing last time was bringing in the Sabotages, the Carnosaurs, and the Stray, and bringing out some number of Champion and Mystery and Annihilate. I think that prediction's still probably good.
Yeah. He only has the 2 Carnosaurs. I thought they were playing a few more, which is why we still see the Champions of Mystery in. Once again, I think the Sabotages. And what do you think they pull out in this matchup? A couple Annihilates, maybe? A pair?
Yeah, some Annihilates, some Champion of Mystery. I think 2 of each, and I'm not entirely sure where the 5th card comes from. The 5th card, it could be a few different things, but we're actually back in the game, so let's...
Maybe a Waystone Infuser?
Possibly.
As punishment? No, I don't think there's a world in which Ace is cutting Waystone Infuser. He's a big fan of that card, and it served him well in the past. VSarius with his nice Chalice hand over here.
Oh boy, this is the hand that dreams are made of.
Well, he drew action.
Okay. Yeah, that was a fortunate timing of when the Sarah was drawn to not lose it to the Varus choice. Looking at Ace's hand, so he's got at least 1 Annihilate in. I was going to say the 5th card could potentially be the 3rd Annihilate coming out and just having 1 Annihilate. Which we don't really know. We'll have to ask the players at a future date. But both players seem to have decent hands going here. They've got some interaction, they've got some threats. Both of them should be decently happy.
So Ace just blasé attacks into that Island's choice. VSarius does have 3 between main and board.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's bringing those in. He might be, but there's a limit to how much you can play around that.
Yeah.
And he drew another creature in the Ion, so it's not the end of the world. It's not a particularly great creature into a 3/4, but it can stop it from attacking for threat of swinging back at least.
The Surges are in. That's interesting.
I would not have called that. So we lose some kind of prize in terms of predicting the sideboarding in this matchup. Because that is very unexpected. I'm wondering what Ace's reasoning is there. Maybe he's went with a very high threat density build, but then why are the Varus choices and Annihilate still in? I don't have an answer off the top of my head.
Maybe he swapped out all the Waystone Infusers. Just so disgusted that Waystone Infusers for Thurges. Thurges are good in following up a Crystallize in that they give you a life buffer to play with. Because you don't, you usually fall pretty low after the first Crystallize, and then the TJP deck can sometimes muscle through you. But you wouldn't expect them to be too good against, the go wide strategy that the TJP deck is usually making use of.
Yeah. I don't fully understand the reasoning there. I'm going to have to ask him in between rounds. I find VSarius' attack here somewhat questionable. By swinging with both Seraphs, he allowed the Ion to swing back, leading to him just losing life and not dealing that extra 3 damage. I think he should have kept 1 back.
I'm not sure about this holding Kothon line. When you hit 8, you don't want to play Kothon and activate, you want to roll Seraph. So...
Yeah, I think he's playing very scared of Stray into Shadow, but it would have happened by now if Lights had drawn it. Sorry, if Ace had drawn it.
Can he beat a Stray into Shadow at this point?
I don't think so. I think he probably should have played this out, I agree with you. And now that the Mystic Ascendant is established, and we've almost reached mana for Ion to bring back something big, this is a large problem. And Ace even has the Banish backup now, so he can swing like that and not be afraid of a giant group block.
Well, he's blanked on power for 3-4 turns in a row, and Protect at least counters the Banish, but does he even want to?
He appears to want to. This is probably him deciding I'm not beating Stray, so whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
so
not sure
Ace
he's
is a
beating
star.
IN either.
I don't think he's beating most anything. Now at least that was a tapped power, so he can't activate an IN this turn. But that's small victories at this point. It's very small
Depleted,
victories. I'm sorry.
And then he drew into he drew into another banish. Maybe that targets Kothon again, just to deny the extra blocker. Guy's already got 2 Seraphs, so taking out one doesn't really matter. You're gonna want to do
I
it
could
now.
definitely see that.
Do it. I think you do just banish Kothon, cut him down on options. Yeah. Because right now the Seraphs are just blockers, and if you roll badly on Seraph, well, there's a few more blockers. Never mind.
Yeah, that's a very good draw for Sarius, but he's already so far behind that I don't know if he can really recover.
INs are going to be alting. It's not going to be a great time.
No, it will not be. His one hope is some kind of obelisk into crystallized line, or crystallize into obelisk into crystallized line. But he is very much running out of time for all that. And drawing the power is certainly helpful.
I mean, that blocks Titan. That's not nothing. The 6/10 does do stuff on this board. And he's just going to be chumping Mystic Ascendant forever, but that's fine.
Yeah, he might want to try and block the Sandstorm Titan with the 6/10 and the 3/4. He opts not to. Oh no, he is going back to do that. I thought he had locked that in.
That is so risky. Far beyond dead to annihilate.
Yeah, it's risky, but I think he has to take that risk. Sarius seems to finally be in the mindset of, I can't play around specific cards, so I'm going to assume he doesn't have them, which is something you often have to do when you're behind.
So my problem with that is that now the 8/10, the 8/9 Titan is back in the yard and can be brought back by the other IN, which is going to make it even bigger.
I mean, sure, but that's going to end up happening anyways at some point. He could just bring the Thurge back, which is not as large a creature, but is still a plenty large enough. Okay, that roll is very interesting. We might actually see some success off the back of a Flight Lieutenant.
Double Varus choice says probably not.
Oh, I really wanted to see that. I really did. So if I'm Ace here, I'm very tempted to do it on the Flight Lieutenant and
you're 1 damage off in that case, but I think it's okay. Or not 1 damage. You're a couple damage off.
Yeah, what I was going to suggest was, instead of bouncing the 2 large creatures, bounce the Flight Lieutenant and the Seraph and just end Sarius's ability to keep trading units with you.
Yeah.
He also could aim it at the hand. I don't think it's correct based on what Ace knows, but it would be fairly beneficial to him.
Okay. I think this is fine.
Yeah. I would have been tempted just to
Seraph bounce.
I would have been tempted just to swing with the already alted Ion, just to get that 3 life to try and keep yourself out of range of burn damage. Just suicide it into the 6/10. He doesn't need to do it, but I think it could have been a safer line. But now Sarius just has to recast that. And he's pretty much out of options. He's going to need to draw another Seraph thing, and that'll take 2 turns to establish. All of the meanwhile, Ace is just continuing to draw fuel and fuel and fuel. And he's getting very close to Ace-based territory.
I think we see a defensive Crystallize next turn. Play Seraph, hit for a bunch. This game's not over. Like Ace doesn't have a good Ace base. If he sends in the Mystic Ascendant, he risks a double block, so he may not do that. He's not drawing any cards, so he can play Titan, and that's fine. But light totals are pretty precariously low when an 8/8 and a 6/10 can just be crashing in unblocked.
Yeah, it could go wrong if Ace takes certain lines of play here. I'm continuously watching to see. Okay, this is it. This is the moment he's deciding to Ace. That's where I was going with that. I think he should probably ult the other Ion first. I don't know why he didn't, but
he's gonna play Titan as follow up to play around Crystallize.
I guess. So this puts him at enough health that the Awakened Sentinel and Lieutenant can't 2-round him, which is pretty critical.
Not that Sarius can actually play Crystallize, as he is lacking the second
Oh my god.
primal as this.
Well, I feel silly for not having noticed that, and somewhat vindicated, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, a lot of the lines that required the Crystallize needed him to draw the power for it to happen. So I think Ace is in okay shape here. The second alting Ion is out.
So and that was a great value play there. Warping the Infuser, which he apparently kept, and then warping a power off.
Yeah, I have no idea what came out for Thurge.
I almost want to say, I think he took his Death Strikes out, potentially. He hasn't cast one, right? We haven't... No. Yeah. I think he might have taken them out as being too slow, which I can understand.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Sarius makes the aggressive block, but LightsOutAce has the Varus favor that's going to punish it.
Aww. That's unfortunate.
Not to jump with the 4/4, which, understandable. Just plays going down to 1, saying you don't have anything to punish me in Varus' favor. Punishes him about as hard as he can get. So we're going to game 3.
Yep.
We saw Xenon deck win without Stray. So I guess they can.
He can't have taken them out, right? There's no reason he takes them. He probably just didn't draw them. But I imagine we'll be into the next game without too much of a delay as the players just review their sideboard plans.
Yeah. And we're right back into it. So, having seen all that, it does feel like unless Sarius draws a couple key cards in a row and the power to cast them, it's kind of, advantage to the Xenon deck. But here we see a pretty good power start, and we should see a Awakened Student start to get, start growing pretty early on, and a slow hand from LightsOutAce. So, see how this aggressive start works.
If Sarius can draw the second time for this curve, then this is going to be really impressive. Even without it, he can go Valk Enforcer into Obelisk, which is going to put on a ton of pressure.
So he kind of wants to draw a Seed of Wisdom, considering he's now missing double Primal and doubles time.
Yep.
So
Sarius is opting not to play the Valkyrie Enforcer and just to slow roll a bit more, which I can understand for sure. Now this turn, I'd imagine, he's going with the Obelisk.
Sarius list doesn't actually play any copies of Seed of Wisdom.
Oh my god.
So
I'm gonna have to look at this mana base and cry a little bit later. I am very much on the $3 decks run 12 seats train.
Yeah. Well, that's not the case here. So Sarius a little bit tight on influence, we can say. But, he's got 2 Obelisks down, and those are very effective in this matchup. Ace can, it looks like, go for a Carnosaur trade if he wants to. And I think he probably should.
I don't hate that at all.
He probably.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel great trading your 6-drop for but that's a 2-drop that's had a fair amount of investment at this point, and this allows you to start bashing in. And Sarius has been signaling awkward hand this whole time, although that time sigil is going to allow him to establish the largest threat on the board, which is going to be, unless he chooses not to.
He's going for the Kothon line.
Interesting.
Because the Titan still couldn't block the Steward, and this plays a little bit better against removal spells. He's not too worried about taking some damage, but LightsOutAce is going to be able to establish his Mystic Ascendant. And I favor the deck with the Mystic Ascendant in the long game.
Yeah, although it's worth noting that while spending so many early turns on these obelisks has not been great.
Into a potential banish.
Yeah, he gets away with it. That was a risky block. Anyways, while the player with the Mystic Ascendant usually wins the long game, the player with 2 Xenon Obelisks, that's going to pay dividends over the course of this match. So, if Sarius can find an answer to that Ascendant...
Okay, takes out the Kothon with his Steward of the Past. Okay.
Um,
Okay, I can hear Bradykin again. Sorry about
okay,
that.
sorry, we had a minor issue with the sound there. We swear this will stop happening at some point late next year. Anyways, to catch up a little bit on what we missed while going through that game, VSarius has established the Titan, and he has found his second primal, so his crystallizes will now be active, but he has not answered the Mystic Ascendant, which Ace is continuing to swing with. The Stray in his hand, which we now know is still in his deck, is going to be less effective underneath these obelisks.
But if you're serious, you got to feel compelled to play out a scouting party here, right?
Oh, almost certainly.
next
His line
turn,
is going to be scouting party into crystallize. Almost 100%.
And that's going to get cleaned up by the Stray. Unless Ace goes for like a Stray Varus favor line, which seems aggressive.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to. I think just, playing the Sandstorm Titan is going to be a far stronger line. He's probably debating just throwing one of his Varus favors at the face, just to get a power, which I don't hate at all.
For the Mystic Ascendant, for next turn.
Oh, a second scouting party. So the first one is almost certainly going to get strayed. And actually, is this going to put VSarius dead? Yeah, this puts him dead. He can stray Varus favor the Valkyrie Enforcer, and then Ace base.
And then there's 8 damage there.
Yeah, and VSarius has no power, so Ace knows this is safe. And that's going to decide the round.
On the back of, once again, a Stray into Shadow and a Mystic Ascendant. So the Time Justice Primal deck stumbles a little bit on influence, and that proved to be too much for it to overcome. Dropping down to still a table-topping 4-1. Let's be reasonable here. But LightsOutAce improves to 3-2. Into the middle of the pack with his Xenon control list.
Yep, so both players are still looking very solid after this round. And at least we got to see the TJP player win a game in this round. We did not see it be quite so one-sided.
Looking at the other matches this round, I am told that Tabu has won his round, so we still have TJP at the top of the table 5-0 over a Skycrag Burn deck, which is kind of interesting. Defeating Child Roland there. 2-1 has finally dropped a game. Unearthly has bounced back, defeating Hythar. So Hythar dropped 2 games to 2 top players in quick succession. Or 2 matches there, unfortunately. But Unearthly making his bounce back. Chicken continues to be very angry, defeating Toth 2-0. Kamado defeats Loco Pojo 2-1. And Sir Rhino takes down Confcroat in a Season 2 rematch. Where I think Confcroat came 4th behind Sir Rhino. That sounds right. Don't quote me on that. And Sunnyvale takes down Love Up, and Moosh, unfortunately, falls to 0-5 after being defeated by Ilya K 2-0. It can't be easy for his mental game here, but he can still bounce back if he strings a couple wins together. So we see TJP at both ends of the table here.
Yeah, we also have to remember that even if you end up in the bottom, one of those players gets to fight their way back in. So he can still definitely get out of that through strong play in the rest of the rounds, but he also still has a shot to fight his way out from there. So his tournament is not over yet. But he will definitely have to fight through a little bit of tilt.
Yeah, I'm going to need to keep a solid head on your shoulders. We'll be going to break here, but that is all the matches for the round, so we will be back shortly with round 6.